You know, I thought they were going to wait until next Friday to make this announcement, but late last night, I mean late, this is 1 or 2 a.m. Eastern, all of a sudden, Pokemon games started to appear on the Nintendo Switch eShop in the coming soon section. And it was very random to where people were looking at it going, I guess somebody accidentally pressed go live on these listings before the announcement was ready to be made, because then just like a couple hours later, it was official. Pokemon, some of the classic ones, will be coming to the Switch, and not necessarily in a way that I think people were hoping, although some seem kind of happy with it. It's definitely a mixed bag, but it's Pokemon. So go figure, But we'll go over exactly what's happening here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. So this is over on Nintendo's site, the news section, Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen, both of which will be coming to Nintendo Switch and then backwards compatible on the Switch too. On the 27th, Pokemon Day, they decided to make this announcement a week in advance. And you might be wondering why exactly that is. Well, if I had to take a guess, it's because next week on the 27th, they will be announcing Pokemon Gen 10. And so there's going to be a lot happening right at that time. Of course, the 30th anniversary. So you'll have all kinds of merchandise also being announced, probably some other like offshoot games, collaborations. A lot of stuff's going to be happening. But this one in particular, I think will generate a lot of hype. It already kind of has a lot of discussion, certainly. But also there's gonna be a lot of questions around these because these are there's some things to this that I looked at and said, oh, that's weird with how they're approaching it. But first off, Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green, multiple languages here. And if you look on the eShop now, there are multiple listings for English, French, and Spanish. And if you go through, you'll see them pop up separately, and you just have to pick, which one you need for your language. So it's not, unfortunately, all one game. And you just scroll through the text and pick whichever language you want. So make sure you buy the right one. All right. But they say capture wild Pokemon and recapture the nostalgic feel of the Game Boy Advance system when the Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green games return for the first time in over 20 years on the Switch, just in time for Pokemon Day on February 27th. Now, immediately people are thinking, oh, this is going into NSO. Not the case. And in fact, if you look on the store, it's $20 for each version. So $40 if you want both Fire Red and Leaf Green. This immediately set off a wave of backlash to support. It's just, again, it's back and forth right now because on one hand, there is a subscription service. This would be Game Boy Advance, so it'd be in the $50 tier per year. But there is a subscription service that people out there already pay for that this would have made an awesome addition to. I mean, if you start that app up on Pokemon Day, both of these versions go in. There will still be some frustration, which I'll get to here in a second as to why. But I think most people would go, oh, that's cool. That's a fun addition. I will check these games out again. But the other angle to this, there are people who just want to buy it. Like, there are some who are not thrilled with the idea of these games all being tied to a subscription, and they consistently ask about the virtual console coming back or having the option to buy these games separately. So clearly you meet in the middle by saying, oh, it's on NSO, but then you can also just go ahead and buy it. Like if this was $20, or you can just play it in your Game Boy Advance NSO app, I don't think people would complain at all because people who want to buy it for 20 would buy it for 20, and others who already have the service or like, okay, now I'll get the service because of this, would have gone that route. But no, they've decided to go with the separate a la carte purchases, $20 each. And the reason I think is pretty clear, although there's some other things that are being pointed out. It's money, like obviously. The Pokemon Company is not Nintendo, and I think that's important for people to realize. They're going to make their decisions independent of what's necessarily best for Nintendo. Nintendo would probably love to be able to just drop these in NSO and immediately spike subscriptions. But that's not necessarily what the Pokemon Company wants to do, which Nintendo is 1/3 of the Pokemon Company. I'm sure the Pokemon Company is thinking, we're going to sell millions and millions of these digitally. We're going to flip a switch, which these are 40 megabytes in size. So yeah, I mean, kind of like emulator ROM, that kind of thing. So it's not exactly a massive production where they've remade or recreated or done anything too crazy here. But with that in mind, the Pokemon Company knows they're going to flip a switch and sell millions and millions of copies, not only with the nostalgia of Fire Red and Leaf Green, which I will say are like top tier Pokemon games. I back in the day, I got FireRed when it came out of the Game Boy Advance, and it was incredible. It's still good to play now, whether like I have the cartridges for them. You go that route, or yes, you emulate them. Look, the Pokemon games have gotten out of control in terms of pricing on places like eBay, the secondhand market. I think Fire Red is like 120. It's more than 100. Leaf Green's a little more expensive. I'm trying to remember exactly why. I think there's Pokemon selection or something, between the two, and Leaf Green, I guess, comes out on the stronger side of that. But the point here is that the cartridges are expensive. Emulation, of course, is not, but I've said this a million times, and I can honestly understand. Some people just don't want to emulate stuff. They go, oh, that's convenient. Guess what one of the biggest selling points of the Switch is convenience. It's 20 bucks. Yeah, I'll go ahead and buy it. I really want to play back through Pokemon. Nintendo did put out an entire Q&A though, or FAQ, frequently asked questions, with this game, because there are still some oddities here, and there is, for me, something that's pretty disappointing actually here, which would have been really cool to see them include. But let's go over some of this here. Are these the original versions of the games? Have they been enhanced or modified in any way? Some specifications may differ, but broadly speaking, the contents of these games are the same as in the game's original release. And they mentioned, due to differences in hardware, the following features operate differently. Games connectivity features require Game Boy Advance link cable or the wireless adapter back then. However, with the Switch 2 and the Switch 1, those work through the built-in local wireless connection. As in, there's no online function here, which is incredibly unfortunate. At the very least, I think online battles would have been awesome. The trading, I think it'd be great to have trading, obviously, because it's easier to now more than ever connect with people through the internet versus, hey, we'll meet up and plug our Game Boys in and trade back and forth that way. I mean, that's all we had back then. But now things are much different. And it's just strange that they didn't think, oh, maybe people would like to be able to get their Gengar without having to meet up. Like, they could just trade them back and forth. So I think the aspect to this is that they are definitely afraid of people exploiting these Pokemon games that I think they want to bring into the fold for some of the current ones with Pokemon Home Support, which was on the listing, by the way, for the eShop. I saw it myself. It was there. And then they took that down. So I'm thinking they might mention it during Pokemon Day that it's coming later, which of course would let you just be able to transfer Pokemon back and forth and do all kinds of things to where it can become more current with this game that's, again, more than 20 years old. But they are very concerned around exploiting, and that would also go into NSO, which has rewind and save states. They don't even support cloud backup with these Pokemon games, and it's just their concern that they could exploit and break, I don't know, I guess the genuine nature of these games. Certainly the competitive scene, along with shiny hunting and all the other stuff that I'm not as familiar with, but I do understand that there is value, and it's very clear when you look at the Pokemon community and how they treat a lot of this stuff. Why are you handling these classic games differently? Celebration of 30 years of Pokemon, we thought it'd be fun to return to the ultimate versions of the original Pokemon adventures in the Kanto region with these special releases. They did not answer that at all. The real answer here is we like money. As that they could just put that there, and I'd say, you know what? They're being honest. Hey, what are you going to do? I do think if most people were in charge at the Pokemon company and looked at this, and bonuses or what have you were tied into any of the sales performances, I think most people watching this would go, yeah, of course I'd sell them for 20 bucks each. What are we talking about here? And then ask if they'll if you'll add the original red version, blue version, or other Pokemon games to Nintendo Classics collection. And then they just go ahead and do a little advertisement of all the games that are available on there now, which are none of the games that were asked about here. Red version and blue version, the originals, I think that would be kind of cool to go into the original Game Boy collection, but that's the $20 per year tier, okay? That's not enough money. So still, I think it'd be kind of fun if they did that. And I don't know if they actually will at this point. You know what the real travesty is? Pokemon Pinball. Where is it? Like, that's the one it's a great, fun game, by the way. That's the one they got to get on there, okay? At the very least, I think for Pokemon Day, you'll see XD or Coliseum get dropped into the GameCube collection. And will the game receives any enhancements when playing on Switch 2? No major differences in how the games perform on Switch 2 and Switch. You know, I do. They mentioned the game chat feature, which is fine. I do think it would be nice if they. I mean, it's like kind of the pixel art stuff. So I guess when they stretch it to fit the Switch 2 screen, it won't affect it too much. I'll have to see in person with this one for how that looks on the screen. But I would like to think that they understand, okay, the Switch 2 can support just a cleaner looking visuals, and there's only so much you can do with older Game Boy Advance style games. But still would be nice if they realize, oh, this is going to be played on a big 4K display or on a 1080 display for the Switch 2 in handheld mode. Let's make sure it looks pretty good. Now, as I mentioned, there's been a lot of back and forth online over this, and it's been somewhat funny to watch the nerd on nerd violence on social media. But to be honest, looking at it, it's $20, and I think you're gonna have many people online get to the 27th, look around, and go, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and buy FireRed. Or like, there's a lot of discourse currently. The game's not out yet, but let's face it. I think most of us know when it does release, it'll immediately become number one. Both of them, LeafGreen or FireRed, number one on the eShop sales charts. It'll be like that scene out of The Simpsons where Homer's trying to tell Moe he lost a customer, but everyone is so loud around him trying to give Moe money at the bar that he can't hear him. That's how it's going to be. So I think there are more people than not, the way even though it looks differently on social media, that are probably just going to buy one or the other, maybe both. You know what I'm really curious about is which one sells better, FireRed or LeafGreen. I'm inclined to say FireRed, but it seems like LeafGreen is the popular one with Pokemon fans. So again, let me know what the deal is there. I've only ever really played FireRed like that. I have LeafGreen, but I've only really ever gotten into FireRed, and a lot of that's because yes, nostalgia. When I played it back in the day, but that's probably the one I would go with here. So stop me if I'm making a mistake, because I know they're basically the same game for the most part. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below in the comments. Is $20 too much? Are you passing on it? Are you picking it up? And if so, which one are you going with? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.